right. Welcome to another episode of the USL show. This is kind of an off-season show that we're going to be hopefully doing every week. It's called This Week in the USL. Maybe we'll come up with a different name. I don't know. I'm Kaylor Hodges, and the way this show is going to work is once a week-ish, whenever somebody has time to hop onto the show. It's going to be probably a solo show or someone else hopping on. It's going to be talking about what happened in the USL this week. Now, this is a little bit of a forewarning. These will probably be shorter episodes because it will be just one person just kind of recapping things. Along with that, we are going to, going to be playing around with the format. So things may be changing. It may not stay this way forever. This first episode will probably be the longest episode just because right after the finals, there's always a ton of news that comes out, whether it's players being announced, rosters being decided, or whatever else along the way. So this is probably going to be the busiest episode. So if there was anything that I miss, and you, oh my gosh, oh, that was awful. I'm so sorry. That is wonderful podcasting. If there's anything that you say, Kaylor, you missed that, let me know. We'll get it into the next episode. This is also being pre-recorded, so that way it's not always going to come out on Tuesday like our shows normally do. It's going to come out pretty much the night we record these, and it's not going to be a live stream. So if you're in the live chat, we're not going to be putting any of your stuff onto the screen. If you're a podcast person, none of this matters. Okay? Goodness gracious, I am struggling today. Give me just a second. I've been on the road for like 19 hours or so going to see family and stuff because Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So if I sound like I'm dead, I'm a little bit dead. Well, look, I want to start off with probably the biggest news in the USL, which kind of came as a shock to just about everyone. Arkansas State, the Red Wolves, won their trademark infringement case against the Chattanooga Red Wolves. Now, the quote that came out on @BigChattanooga on Twitter, X Twitter, whatever. It says, given the identical and closely related goods and service and trade channels and similarity of the marks, we find likely confusion, says the judge, Kolk, whatever. That part doesn't really matter. So I kind of read through the case, viewer, and now listen, I am not a judge. You know this. But in reading through this case, I was kind of just trying to figure it out. The big thing here is not just the name. Okay. While Red Wolves are, those are the same exact names. You see same names all the time, all around. Technically, New Mexico State could do the same thing because I think they're the Lobos Rojos, I believe. So you have Red Wolves everywhere. The thing that's killing the Red Wolves is the logo, the crest itself, by what I am reading. So we may not be getting a full-on rebranding in the sense of now the Red Wolves are going to be another name. It's more than likely going to be that they are going to be changing their crest, which good. That's probably what we're going to be seeing. That's my viewing of it. Now, they may choose to go full rebrand with this new name, new mascot, all that kind of stuff. I kind of doubt it, considering they've kind of built everything in their stadium to be red and gray. That would take a lot of other infrastructure to rebuild. So my guess is just new logo, new crest. Or this could be a situation where they start paying the Red Wolves of Arkansas State to use basically a similar logo. You see this a lot with Green Bay Packers and Grambling State and Georgia Bulldogs and stuff like that in the college world, where they're all using the same G, but they are all paying, I think it's Green Bay, but maybe it's not, to use that particular G and just change the colors on it. So that might be what you get as well, but I really doubt that one. So that's kind of a big deal. I follow the USL a lot. Shocker, one of the hosts of the USL show follows the USL, but that one was kind of big. Some other stuff that happened in the USL. This is also outside of the USL, kinda. We've had a lot of USL players really representing themselves at the big stage of the U17 World Cup. You saw Adrian Peleo play for the U17 for Mexico. Same for Fidel Barajas. Fidel Barajas comes around and has a couple of really, really good goals, including a really peach of a right foot finish. Um, he puts on an absolute show. They get knocked out, I do believe, today as I'm recording this. Same over for the U.S. men's national team, U.S. whatever, U.S. youth national team, where you see Duran Ferry, oh, he's messed up his name, Bryce Jamison and Matthew Corcoran get starts versus France. Um, Bryce Jamison came in almost all their matches, coming in as a sub. Duran only gets the one appearance throughout the World Cup for the U.S. And Matthew Corcoran is kind of walks away as one of the superstars of this World Cup. And yes, I'm going to go ahead and throw my hands up and say there's a bias here. I support Birmingham Legion, but he's the only USL guy for the U.S. youth national team that is getting regular starts, not even just appearances, but just regular starts. So clearly, as a number 6, he's progressing heavily. And for me, I think the big deal here is that we're about to have another year Fidel Barajas and Matthew Corcoran playing against each other in the Eastern Conference. Now, you very well could see Duran and Bryce continue to face off, but with where the Loyal are, which is not around, we don't know where Durant's going to end up. Which that was a question we got on Twitter about the kind of fallout of the Loyal, and the answer is we don't know yet. There's a lot of signings that we're waiting to kind of be officially announced, and then we can start talking about what that looks like. But there's a lot of really good attacking players that are going to be on the market. But Durant is going to be a guy that I think a lot of USL teams are going to be really interested in. A lot of people want a controllable young goalkeeper. Now, here's the thing, and here's where I think that teams may not be as in, is the fact that goalkeepers don't sell for as much money. Okay. So the idea of bringing in a goalkeeper to sell on, which is probably the goal with Duran, he's a U.S. youth national team player, and he's probably going to be worth a little bit of cash. If the goal is to buy him to sell him, you're not going to be starting a player that you're going to be selling for kind of pennies. That's not, at least not in my mind. So I'm kind of curious on what his development looks like if he stays in the USL to get regular minutes, or if teams aren't going to be willing to give him the regular minutes because losing your starting goalkeeper is probably the hardest thing to do. I'm going to be really interested to see where he ends up. But we have one more year for sure seeing Matthew Corcoran and Fidel Barajas butting heads twice a year. And that's really exciting. Think about where the USL is. These are guys starting for their youth national teams at the 17 level, which is where you start to see guys really play. And it's super exciting. I'm super stoked to see all that. Noah Powder made a little bit of news from League One in Northern Colorado, where he gets a red card against the U.S. men's national team, which everybody else was talking about other stuff with the U.S. men's national team as of recent. Who cares? The USL was on for me. Noah Powder gets a red card. Hilarious. But there was a little bit of League One news there. Listen, there's some other stuff. Let's talk about Super League. Fort Lauderdale is officially getting their Super League team, which means, hey, you're about to have a Florida Cup derby again, which is super exciting. Technically Miami, but Fort Lauderdale. I understand that Miami and Fort Lauderdale are very different, and people from Miami hated that I said that. I get that. But for what we have, for as close as it is in the USL, the fact that we have a Miami area and Tampa Bay clashing heads, really exciting. It's going to be really good, I believe, for the USL Super League to have a natural rivalry there. you have, this Florida Cup Derby, which was really good. It was really fun. I think you're going to have that set up stage for this, and it's an easy way to build in these rivalries and hopefully and have good infrastructure ready to go. I'm going to be interested to see where they play. I don't know if they're going to be playing where Inter Miami are playing or if they can find somewhere else to go. I don't know what's available. I'm not the person to know what stadiums are available, obviously, but just kind of a thought. Then let's start moving over now. Oh, sorry. So sorry. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk, two other things before we move into roster stuff. November 20th is officially Bob Lilly Day in Pittsburgh, which hilarious. He shows up in his generic black shirt with just the Adidas logo and just that's just Bob Lilly, and I love the fact that he doesn't change at all. Love him or hate him, Bob Lilly is incredible and honestly hilarious. So that one's fun. New Mexico United looks like they're getting their stadium. Albuquerque City Council approved the lease between New Mexico United and the city of Albuquerque for private construction of a soccer stadium at Balloon Fiesta Park. Now, the quotes that came out of this were hilarious. They kept calling the team homeless, and it was just like, what? They're like, we have a good soccer team, but we're homeless. And it's like, well, not really. I mean, you have a baseball stadium. I get it's not great, but just to be like, we're homeless, it was wild. Um, and I think I also read that they are not going to be allowed to use that area, that stadium, during the hot air balloon festival itself, which, if I could be wrong, somebody could correct me, I think is at the end of the season normally, which if New Mexico finds themselves in a position to host a playoff game and it's in the middle of the festival, they are going to be losing their rights to host the game, their playoff game, which would be wild to me. Now, the USL might make it work and say, hey, you can start this on a different day, but you can push this back a little bit to go forward a little bit. But I think the other team would be kind of mad about it. Like, this isn't our fault. Why are you punishing us by, if we win, we have less time to recover or we had less time to prepare? Either way, I just don't see that working out. So that's the storyline to follow. Now, I think there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we move on to rosters. Yeah. Coach Wright, Rick Wright, is now the head coach and technical director of Greenville Triumph. He was the assistant coach for a long time, and now he's the head coach. Seemed like a natural succession from Harks, who he sat under Harks for a while. And I'm sure he's going to have different ideas, but there's probably going to be a lot of continuation of Harks ball. So good on Greenville for getting that sorted out. Happy for him. Excited for Coach Wright because he's everything I've heard about him. He's a great coach. Really fun. Now, let's get into rosters. I'm going to be just doing the USL Championship right now, and because I don't think League One's really announced a whole lot. There's one big League One announcement with rosters, but we'll get to that in a minute. Because this is the first dump of information. There's a lot of teams who have not said anything about their roster situation. We are going to just kind of read out all of the people who are out of contract, and then we're going to talk about who is in the sense of who just got signed. So that's how this is going to work. If there's a better system, tell me. If there's a better way you would rather me do this. But again, this is information dump, and we'll get into this in a sec. All right, so let's talk about all the teams that have announced out so far. And we're going to go alphabetical order, not chronological order of when they were announced. If you want to follow along, USL Tactics at USL Tactics, John Morrissey, obviously one of the hosts on here. He's keeping up with it. And USL League One Updater is going to be doing that for League One as well. And we'll probably be talking about that and using his. So keep that in mind, but we're not doing that quite yet. So for the switchbacks, who is out? We have Drew Skundrich. We have Jay Chapman, Joe Kosminski, Jimmy Ockford, and Aaron Wheeler are out. And again, if no team has told us if someone's out yet, We're not going to talk about it, obviously, yet. For El Paso, they have Jose Carrillo. They have Peter Knudsen. They have Joel Maldonado, Dennis Kochian. I mess his name up all the time. I'm so sorry. Emmanuel Sanu, Eric McHugh, and Mark Navarro. Mark Navarro might be one of, just biased, might be one of my favorite free agents right now. If he stays in the USL and someone picks him up, that's going to be an incredible signing, by the way. For Tulsa, Eric Bird, which that was a shock for me. He's a really good player. Christopher Pearson, Justin Malu, Watts Leardson, Jorge Corrales, which is another crazy one to see him out. Saeed Haji, Jace Bromstead, Austin Warmel. He was a Tulsa guy, so I was a bit shocked to see him go. Patrick Way and Rashid Tede. For Hartford, out Connor McGlynn, which we'll be talking about that one in a second. Going on, there's a lot of people who have announced Oscar Jimenez for Lou City, Tyler Gibson, Kyle Morton, Rasmus Thelfson, and Rasmi Kwasmi. Oscar Jimenez, Tyler Gibson, Kyle Morton. 3 people I did not think would be necessarily free agents, especially Oscar Jimenez, whom I believe has been around since basically the beginning. Tyler Gibson has been around since near the beginning. Tyler Gibson might be one of the best players, defensive mids on the market. One big one upcoming that we'll talk about too. Oscar Jimenez was a shock to me. I was very surprised that Oscar Jimenez was out. So we'll see what happens there. I think he's going to be a hot commodity as well. For Memphis, Jelani Peters, Graham Smith, Aaron Malloy, which biased here. I think he might be the best free agent on the market. That is my personal opinion. I think he's the best one as of now. There's other teams who haven't announced anybody either way. But as of now, Aaron Malloy might be the biggest one. Reese Buckmaster, Jeremy Kelly, Laurent Casillas, Rodrigo da Costa, Drew Romig, Aiden McFadden, who is out from loan, Leston Paul, and Rashawn Daly, which Leston Paul, I feel like, has to go back. And you don't have the name Leston Paul and don't go back to Memphis. Personal opinion. But Aaron Malloy is a crazy one. And my brain is telling me he has to have an offer from a higher league, not a better league or a better team, because Memphis was really good last year. But he has to have a Europe or a higher league opportunity. There's no way Memphis just let him go unless they were being cheap on wages. But I don't know. That one's an insane one. Aaron Malloy is right now the top free agent, and I think every single team in the USL should be fighting for him. Sneaky pick for me. I would not be shocked if he stays in the USL, if he ends up at Lou City, because like I said, they just lost Tyler Gibson. Going from Tyler Gibson to Aaron Malloy would be that'd be incredible for them. For New Mexico, they have Armando Moreno and Justin Portillo, 2 people that we'll be talking about very soon as well. Oakland, Trevor Bailey, Anora Palaz, Denny Barbier, Tariq Murad, Emra Kilmeta. Yikes, I'm struggling today. Joseph Nani and Kevin Wright. From there, we're kind of skipping over RGV, but they had an announcement today that I completely forgot about. Wilmer Cabrera is out, which they keep saying that they said that he's out as the technical director and head coach, which means that they're looking to hire a technical director and head coach, which means maybe they're alive. We'll see. Where did I end up? This is tough not for me. For Sacramento, Matt LaGrassa is out. Officially announced, which his is via retirement. And then out for Tampa Bay, You have Jake Lucava, Jake Araman, Raiko Rosarena, Abel Caputo, uh, Ariel Martinez, Phil Brano, maybe, Jan Ekra, Connor Sparrow, Lucky Makasana, there we go, Sebastian Delgard. Then Miami, which Miami becomes a sweepstakes. Did y'all hear that carp weird? Miami is kind of a sweepstakes. You have a lot of good players here, and a lot of them have already been picked apart. El Paso, Noah Abrams, Moises Hernandez, Curtis Thorne, Adrian Zendejas, Gustavo Risi, Ryan Tefler, Dennis Dowana, Aiden Stanley, Kyle Murphy, Claudio Repeto, Joaquin Rivas, Christian Sordo, Bolu Akinyode, Florian Valo, and Jake McGuire. Miami is going full clear the house, and I kind of respect it, but there are some names in there and some of the biggest splashes. And I want to start here with them. I mentioned it. El Paso, who they just unveiled a new kit today. Hummel new kit sponsor. Make what you will of that whole thing. Joaquin Rivas, Armando Moreno from New Mexico. And I saw a bunch of people saying grass is not always greener. Interesting. Elijah Martin from Loyal and Joaquin Rivas, Bolu Akinyode. I don't remember which order I went in. But yeah, they got Bolu Akinyode and Joaquin Rivas, which, and Akinyode is a guy who can slot in at center back or at your center mid. I know a lot of people are used to seeing him at center mid, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Liam Rose stay in the midfield and Akinyode drop to a center back. He did it, for a long time with Birmingham Legion as a center back. So he has it in his locker, and he's a super versatile player. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him as almost like a libero type, where he can go up and down the middle of the pitch and just kind of carry the ball. That's just kind of who he is. El Paso is making a run for the best offseason so far. It's only 1 week into the offseason, really. So to name offseason champions, a little premature. I get it. But this is a really good start for El Paso. You have Justin Portillo going over to Tulsa, being announced today from New Mexico as well. Renan Ribeiro is in for Hartford. Same for Danny Barrera. Another guys that are just kind of here in town. Indy gets Danny Barbier from Oakland. That one's announced. Zach Ryan back to Loudon. Drew Skundrich is in for Loudon as well. Kyle Murphy returns to Memphis, which is an interesting one. If you remember, that was a messy divorce for Memphis. So the fact they kind of got back together, interesting. And that's a situation I'm going to be watching really closely. Mitchie Nader Cherry in for Oakland. Going there. Rhode Island, Coque Vegas, Connor McGlynn, Amos Shapiro Thompson, Grant Stoneman, and Mark Doyle. You have two loyal players there with Grant Stoneman and Coque Vegas. Going in for Rhode Island and Connor Smith's men. Connor McGlynn, probably the best player and definitely the favorite player up in Hartford, going to what's bound to be a regional rival. Mark Doyle coming over from, I believe it was Ireland. Where he looks like a fun forward. And Amos Shapiro Thompson is a center attacking mid whom I'm really interested in. I think he can make a real splash. A really big player in Trevor Amon joins Sacramento, which we kind of talked about this one already a little bit. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the Trevor Amon sweepstakes are done, and it happened the day after the final. Yeah, so Trevor Amon in, that's a really exciting one if you are Sacramento fans. That was a really, really fun one. Let's see if I think that was it to talk about with all the new player signings. We still don't have a whole lot of people who have announced their official roster decisions, so we're kind of stopping and waiting pretty much. Yeah. that was really about it. I am going to double check the old Twitter machine because I'm pretty sure I'm missing something, and I'm sure you hear me clicking on my keyboard and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Okay, so a couple of things. There was somebody who kind of mentioned um a new USL viewer. This is Football St. Louis, so I'm guessing Missouri football. Um, what does the new USL viewer need to know about the league, which team to watch, and how to choose who cheers for next year? Cheer for next year. Um, Maybe I'm not the best person for this, and maybe this could be a fun just off-season show to talk about the new USL viewer. But I like the idea. Um, I think the biggest thing to know is hey, CBS and ESPN, and CBS is going to, I think, pair with Paramount Plus, you're going to be able to watch most of the games for free. So no, almost zero paywall now, which is really, really cool. So if you're looking for that, I think that's kind of where you are. I'm guessing now this is pointed at someone from Missouri. You're in the middle of the country, so you can kind of choose the east or west. You are in the St. Louis conference, which flip flop whatever time. But if you're a new viewer, I would suggest find someone on your time zone. That way, it's super easy for you to watch. Even though I like to stay up and watch all the late night matches over in West Coast, you may not want to do that. So find someone within your time zone area. Okay. And then kind of think about which style do you like? Do you like defense? Because if you're do you like goals? Because yeah, if you are someone who just wants to see someone hunker down, I mean, we talked about it a lot. Detroit City could be your kind of grinded out. We want to see defense. If you just want to see goals, 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 I mean, maybe your Tampa Bay's could be fun. You could also see your Sacramento's if you want to see a little bit of all of it. I would say just watch around for a little bit and figure out what do you like more. Do you like defense or attack? And yes, there are balanced teams out there, but most teams tend to sway one way or the other. Um, we can do a full show on like if you like this, go for this. If you like this, go for that. I am just going to just throw it out there. If it was me and I was a new USL fan and I'm on the East Coast, I would just start rooting for Rhode Island. This is their first year around. Why wouldn't you? That one's a super exciting one to me. I think that one they're building a really fun squad. So that one is a fun one to just kind of follow along from the beginning. League stability is from Cool Soccer. That one's a fun one. League stability. I think the league is stabilizing. I think the stability is kind of here. Yes, we saw a loyal fold, which obviously sucks, but we're not seeing the foldings every single year. Will it ever happen? I look, true stability is hard. I mean, even stuff like COVID threw a wrench in things. Look in England. I mean, Bury was a team that everybody talked about and was a longtime club. They're just now kind of coming back. It's hard. I think it will happen, but only in the most US way possible. We can talk about pro rel and all that kind of stuff, but that's a whole nother conversation, which I don't know if that would even create league stability, but that's a whole different conversation of that day. Teams that are coming. I mean, you obviously have Rhode Island, you have your New Orleans that are on the way. You have your Spokanes, which are coming. You have uh, Des Moines that is planning. Northwest Arkansas. The oh gosh, I always mess it up. It's the one that's on the Oklahoma Texoma. Is that what they call it? Oaklex. I think it's Texoma. That area, they're getting one a team. I think you're adding teams and you're adding them in the right places, and I think you're going to start seeing just a little bit more stability. I kind of like where the league is right now. Christos, hey, they beat Nova, and they move on through the Open Cup. They made it in. Christos, who is out in the Baltimore area, I do believe, make it through. So shout out to the Charm City Mob. Super excited for them. I love watching them. I love watching Christos. They are a ton of fun to watch, and that's a big derby match for you to get into the Open Cup. Super cool. Um, The story behind Miami FC. This is from Boston Armin. The story of Miami FC is that they have a stupid rich owner. just just so much money. Just that's kind of the long and short of it. When your stadium is named after you, that you have money. So there's I think that was about it. Oh, why hasn't this is from I Hate Your Club. Rhode Island is certain dominance over Hartford. Yeah, I mean that Rhode Island, I love what Connor Smith is doing in Rhode Island. So yeah, if you're a new USL fan, that's where I would go. And why hasn't Milwaukee committed to the Tall Boys? I fully believe that this could be like a football manager. You can only sign players of 6 foot plus if your name is the Tall Boys, and if you have anybody under that, sorry. Where you're going to find some of these central midfielders and wingers that are 6 foot plus, I don't know, but they should do it. If they're going to be the Tall Boys, gotta happen. But yeah, I think that was it for this week. This is probably going to be one of the longest ones unless we get something massive, which if we get something massive, it will not just be one person talking about it. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much for following along. If this is something that you want to see more of, let me know. And if there's stuff that you want to see added, please let me know. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And even though he's not here because no one else was here because it was just me, bless your heart, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of The USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.